Hey, Tom Brannon here. I recently attended NiCE Cognigy Nexus in Munich and had the opportunity to sit down with Cognigy co-founder Phil Heltewig. In this interview, we talk about speed and trust as they relate to winning with AI and touch on the success of the acquisition with NiCE. Well, hello, everybody. I have the great honor and privilege to be sitting down with Phil Heltewig with NiCE Cognigy. Phil, it's great to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
So in the keynote, you said a couple of interesting things to me. Your vision casting, first of all, how do you kind of come up with what do you want to share, to this audience at this event?
Yeah, it's an iterative process. We built these keynotes as a team and with product marketing and evangelism and myself. It's a team. We've been doing this for many years now. Mm-hmm. And I think what we want to do is we want to give a broader outlook on what's happening in the market. And many of these things will be known to many people in the audience, but maybe there are bits and pieces that are new. And then we're bringing it back to what are we doing in CX, mm-hmm. like we as the industry. And then we are, of course, bringing it back to what are we doing here at NiCE Cognigy. And we're trying to do it not so much in like a very rehearsed way. Like mm-hmm. I literally saw the presentation, I think, twice before the event. And once I spent half an hour going through it just before, and then that's it. And then so we just essentially wing it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more natural than going on stage and essentially reading of a teleprompter. Yep.
Well, it was natural, but it didn't come across as winging it. So I think you hit that little sweet spot there.
That's good.
One of the things that I really liked, you talked about obviously, AI agents, serving customers. Like we all get that. That's what we've been talking about for forever now. But you also had a statement, of AI agents, being customers as well. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think with the emergence of autonomous agents, we're going to see an acceleration in that. A good example would be OpenClaw, which came out a couple of months back, where you all of a sudden have an agent that is doing something on a customer's behalf. So it's not really the agents being customers, but it's being agents are being the proxy for customers that are then interacting with you. So we'll be able in the very near future, or depending on how technical you are already in this day and age, to go and give an agent a task, and then the agent goes and does it for you. And this task right now oftentimes is in programming, engineering, right? But it's going to be in everything. So I think we're going to have these agents on our phones. We can give them a task, and we can go like, hey, there is a pilot strike today. I need to rebook my ticket. Right now, I'm giving this task to my PA, mm-hmm. but then maybe I'm giving it to my agent, and then the agent will go figure it out and rebook the flight. And in this process, the agent will then communicate with customer service, right, on the enterprise side. So I think right now, it's probably 100% human agents, mm-hmm. or 99.99% human agents. This is going to shift dramatically. I could foresee a world where it's 5% humans, because no one really likes doing that, right? And we're all about convenience. Mm-hmm. We like things to be convenient. That's why we like the Spotifys of the world. We don't have to choose which songs to buy, but we just pay a subscription fee. That's convenient, right? Or video streaming or whatever. And with these AI agents, I think it's going to be very similar. Because it's all about convenience. Mm-hmm. I mean, what would I rather do? Would I rather now go figure out which other flight connections are there, and then go and call this airline and that airline and try to figure it out? Or would I give it to an AI agent where I have the confidence that the AI agent will actually be doing a good job at it? Say, go do it, and then I can go to the gym or go for a walk or play a PlayStation game or whatever mm-hmm. I'd rather be doing than figuring out how to solve this issue. So it's about convenience, and because it is about convenience, it's near certain that this is going to happen, mm-hmm. because the technical capabilities are already there. And I mean, we saw Peter Steinberger being hired by OpenAI essentially within 2 weeks of this whole thing blowing up with OpenClaw. And that's because they know that this is the future, right? Autonomous agents that can really perform actions for us. And I think we're going to be seeing that everywhere.
Well, I think it's obviously it's coming. I mean, not everyone has got their eye on this in the industry. So I think it's really cool you guys are doing that. I've been thinking about it for a couple of years. And even when Alexa Plus came out, they mentioned, agentic capabilities. Basically, we're on the way. So I think that's exciting. Let's talk about trust a little bit. Something that's kind of come up with a lot of your customers. And you guys have done a good job of building trust with big brands that are, trying to get their hands around AI. They're scared of AI. They it's hard for them to trust. How have you been able to build trust in the past with Cognigy, and how are you kind of building trust into your products going forward?
Yeah. I think in the past it was actually easier because in the pre-LLM era, you had natural language understanding plus structured processes, and you can deterministically test that if a customer says, "Where's my package?" then the agent would respond in a certain way. There was no variations in this. You could build in variations, but then you can test against the variations. So it was almost deterministic, and the AI was only used to identify what the customer's sentence meant. So building trust in that era was real easy because the AI did not have agency and could not veer off track. Now with LLMs, this whole thing changed, and I think a little bit unfortunately, the spotlight came too quick onto LLMs and their amazing power, because at the time when the spotlight hit LLMs, they were still hallucinating like crazy. So they made stuff up all the time. Now, having said that, if I ask you, I mean, when was the last time that ChatGPT or Gemini, or whatever you're using, hallucinated something that was not true? That doesn't really happen anymore, right? So I think the big frontier model providers have gotten that piece under control. But still, it is possible that it happens because we're no longer working deterministically where it's 0 or 1. We're working probabilistically where the LLM goes like, okay, I think I should say this with a high confidence of 99%, but then you still have 1% hallucinations. So what we can do, which is quite unique to us, since we have this deterministic background, we can embed the LLM-powered agentic agents into deterministic construct, which means that before the user input hits the LLM, we can deterministically do something to that user input. We can clean it from PII data, for example, or we can check, do they want to just talk to a human agent? And maybe we don't even need to bring it to the AI agent, etc. Then it hits the LLM and the LLM-powered agent, and then we can, again, deterministically work with the outputs if we want to. So we could double check, are these outputs compliant, etc., etc. So being in this position where we grew up as a company in the pre-LLM world, yet having the full power of agentic now available, we can create what we call hybrid agents, which is really a driver in trust, especially in regulated industries where we're very strong.
And then you've got simulation product, you have some additional agent monitoring as well that can kind of test these scenarios. And
so we have tooling. One is called the simulator, which essentially allows you to create synthetic customers. So you describe what the customer wants to achieve and how they behave. So let's go with this package tracking example. You could say, okay, we have a customer who wants to track their package number of X, and it's a friendly and cooperative customer. And then you say, this is the AI agent, and then you can run a number of simulations with variations. Maybe you run 1,000 simulations against the AI agent. Now this one's easy because it's like a happy path customer. But maybe you have a customer, they also want to track that package, but it's a feisty and untrusting customer and rude customer who never gives out any data, including the tracking number, which of course doesn't make any sense. But then it's actually quite funny to sometimes see these interactions then play out. And then this customer, and then we can see how would the AI agent react to that and still convince the customer, well, I can't help you if you don't give me your tracking number, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're doing. And this, as you rightly point out, this adds to adding trust. But it's not just adding trust, because you're testing a couple of things. You're testing, are the AI agents capable of actually handling this specific customer issue? And then you have the success criteria, and the criteria can be manifold. It can be, have I tracked my package? Sure, that's easy. Has the agent always used the formal German way in communicating, for example? So they can be soft factors like that. Plus, of course, you can run simulations that also test the underlying technical infrastructure, because say package tracking, of course, you can mock the actual tracking function, which means if you run 10,000 simulations, you don't want to hit your backend systems 10,000 times for actually figuring out the package status, right? So we can mock that function. So you can say, okay, if this comes in, just answer with yes, it's on its way or whatever. But you can also not mock it. So you can say, now we're running maybe 5 simulations that end-to-end test everything. Because there might be 5 different backend systems that you're hitting, and you want to make sure that everything works. So by running these simulations on a schedule, on a daily basis, you can make sure that everything actually works. Or maybe you're running them every hour. Let's say every hour you run these 5 simulations just to make sure that everything works. And there's alerting if things don't work and so on and so forth. So it's really advanced tooling that combines simulations with evals to then see what is the achievement rate, etc.
I think one thing as an analyst, sometimes I just lose sight of is cost, So
Yes.
being able to simulate not just for performance, but also things like latency, but token use, like,
Yes. This is a really good point.
And I think that something I don't think about a lot, but I know it's been mentioned on stage.
Yes. So what we can do, because you're right, with the advent of large language models and large language models being used in conversational AI experiences, there is an increase in cost because previously everything was self-contained, so everything was on the Cognigy platform. Now you have the LLM APIs that are being used, so there is an extra cost for them. Now, whilst token cost has significantly reduced, like 1,000-fold over the past couple of years, we've kind of hit a certain ceiling there, I guess. And so you want to make sure that you're using models that are fit for the job, but maybe not the most expensive models. And let's take GPT 4.1 mini. It's a cheap model, it's a fast model, but it's not the best in reasoning. But maybe it doesn't have to be the best in reasoning. So if you have an AI agent that, say, answers about opening times or whatever, then you don't need a smart reasoning model like maybe Anthropic Opus 4.6 fast, or something like this, which costs hundreds of times or thousands of times what a token costs in the GPT 4.1 mini, right? But then you might have background agents that actually need to do complex reasoning. And then for those, you can use a different model. So you can mix and match models to cost optimize. And with our simulator, you can also say, okay, run this agent with GPT 4.1, run the same agent with GPT 5.1, and let's see if the success rates vary. Or maybe you start using an open source model, right? Llama, something like this. And then you can, but with our simulator, you build these agents once, and then you say, okay, simulate with this model, this model, this model. Let's take a look at it, and then you can make a decision based on the cost.
Cool. Let's shift to speed real quick, because I heard this in many different ways too. And talking to your team, like the speed at which you're developing and pushing the NiCE team as well to move faster, and then your customers being able to move fast as well.
Yes.
And I asked a couple folks about it, and they said, that's Phil. That's Phil driving this.
Okay.
Let's just talk about the value of speed as you see it today, beyond the just obvious.
Sure. I mean, we've seen a crazy acceleration in speed in general in the industry, right? I mean, yesterday on stage, I presented a slide that showed the reasoning capabilities of the newest models, and it was the GPQA benchmark, and the top scorer in reasoning was, I think, GPT 5.3 with 92% or something like that. And the night before, when I reviewed the slides, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let's actually take a look at the benchmark. And I logged in, and the slide that had only been built a week ago had already been superseded. And so it's really fast. And over are the days where we can create a roadmap and we say, oh, this piece of work is going to take 12 months or 6 months, right? So the way that I have structured this in my team, and I'm getting full support from top-level management at NiCE in this, we're AI first. In product management, we're no longer writing specs, getting together in these meetings, and then out comes a spec document of 10 pages. No one reads those anyway. I mean, what happens if you get a spec document of 10 pages and you pop it into ChatGPT and summarize it? So what we do instead is we prototype using vibe coding. Okay. Right? So this could be V0, this could be Lovable, this could be Claude Code, any of these tools that the product managers prefer. So we vibe code, and we get into the product meetings with the vibe code of prototypes, and then we iterate in the meetings on those. We're like, it would actually be better if this button did this, and then We just tell it, and then 2 minutes later, it's there, and we can try it out. It's not fully functional.
Yep.
Then once we have these vibe-coded prototypes and we agree, then we go and test them with customers, and then we go and give them to the engineering department and say, okay, please now properly implement this with all the scalability, security, all this kind of stuff. But this allows us to move at a much faster speed. So for example, yesterday, you may have seen this in the product keynote, we announced that you will be able to control all of Cognigy AI via tools like Claude Code. So we're MCP-ifying the whole API base that we have. And I, together with a couple of others, we had this idea that we should do this. And we gave it to a prototyping team that we have. It's called Cognigy Labs. And I think we told them around maybe midday, something like that. And it was Friday. And I cracked a joke and I said, yeah, but I want to see this before the weekend. Right? And at 3 p.m. I got a video, and I was like, "Look here, we have a first version. Take a look at it."
Oh my gosh!
Like, holy shit!
Yeah.
This is crazy. And that, of course, it wasn't perfect yet, but we could try it.
Yep.
This is something that in the past would have taken weeks to build out,
yep.
right? And with the new type of technology, it does not. And it's flattering that you heard that the speed is me. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there's a lot of people that are buying into this mindset.
Yep.
And we are being very relentless about this.
Yep.
We say you have to jump onto the bandwagon,
Yep.
the AI bandwagon. If you're fixing a bug manually, then you shouldn't be working here. Like, we now have pipelines in place where bugs can get fixed fully autonomously by AI agents within minutes. Fixing a bug costs us around $1 a bug by now. And even if it's not the final solution to fix the bug, get started with AI. Like, go like, this is the bug. How would you fix it, Claude? Right? I'll give you an example. We had this bug. You click on a text field on an iPhone, and then it zooms in. But if it zooms in, the send message button is hidden. So you have to type the message, zoom out, and press the button. That's kind of annoying. It's a small bug. And so I thought, because I found it interesting, I thought, okay, I'll try Claude Code and see how it would fix it. And I gave it the bug description, and it said, oh yeah, it zooms in because the font size in the text field is 14, and on an iPhone, if it's less than 16, it zooms in. So all you need to do is you need to give it the right code to say, if it's an iPhone, then put the font size to 16. Super easy fix, one line fix. But how long would a developer have taken to figure out that that is the reason why it's doing that, right? And that is really the speed advantage you get from those types of technologies. Start with AI, ask AI how it would fix it, ask AI to build a pull request. You don't have to necessarily use that in the end, although hopefully we will be able to use it. But it just gives us a dramatic speed advantage.
Let's kind of wrap things up talking a little bit about the NiCE relationship. It's 6 months now. It's hard to believe. You know, there was a lot of kind of promise at the time of investment in Cognigy. And I thought it was really interesting that Scott Russell, NiCE CEO, came out on stage and, you know, talked about that, but talked about you being the you know, kind of the centerpiece of the combined strategy going forward for both companies.
Yes.
What's that been like over the last 6 months? And are you pleased that Scott's kind of holding to that of really kind of, you know, taking again a very established, very successful company with very smart people, but really putting you guys in the front of it?
Yes. Obviously, I'm very pleased about this. It makes my life a lot easier. And I mean, I've seen friends who've sold their companies, and they were then absorbed into these larger entities, and they were just, you know, put to the side a little bit, and it was all about buying their revenue. And they became very unhappy, and they left as soon as possible. Now we are in a very different situation here. Scott did not just make good on what he said. I think it actually turned out to be even better. So the impact we're having on this company as NiCE Cognigy, or now NiCE Agentic, as we call ourselves, is tremendous. And the resources that we're being given, the autonomy that we're being given in driving change in the organization is fantastic. And so we're getting a lot of resources. We got a lot of folks from around the organization that joined our LOB. So we almost quadrupled in size since the acquisition, because we now have all these other products underneath. One thing I have to say that, when you have a startup, you are kind of skeptical about larger enterprises. Mm-hmm. You think, it's all these people 9 to 5 and not very innovative, not hungry, because why else would they work at a large enterprise? Mm-hmm. But I think it's not really true. Mm-hmm. Like what we found here is really smart people and very driven. And it's a joy to work in this organization and to be able to drive this forward. And I think the one thing that really allows this to happen is that we have a joint vision. This joint vision was there from the start. Scott Russell, together with his management team and board, realized that the future of customer experience is AI. Mm-hmm. Now you might say, well, yeah, everyone knows that, right? Everyone would agree with that. But does everyone really agree with that? If you look at the industry, if you look at the peers that NiCE has in the market, they're all saying that, mm-hmm. but they're not really making structural changes to their businesses mm-hmm. that reflect that. Whereas NiCE has done that last year. It's funny, you're saying it's 6 months, already 6 months. Can you believe that? It feels like it's way longer, way longer. Like we've been here for a long time already, because so much is happening, right? It's really fast. But it's been a really good experience for us, and you can see that with, of course, I mean, some people left, but this is normal in any company. Yeah. But the large majority of people, I would say 95% plus of the people that we had are still here, and the key players are still here in engineering. Almost I think all the top talent is with us, and really excited about where we're going. And I think that is really the key, because in a startup, you're kind of like the rebels. You have a mission, right? And it's important to instill that kind of spirit. And I think we've been doing a really good job at also doing that here. Yes, we are a larger organization, but you just have to, like Sun Tzu is saying in the Art of War, right? You have to create an enemy. Mm. And maybe the CCAS were our enemy before. Now we just have to have a bigger enemy, right? That we can rally against, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. And that's where this spirit comes from. We want to win. Yeah. We're not here to play, second league. Yeah. We want to be the winner, and we will be the winner with what we're doing.
Well, and covering NiCE, I know that's been their philosophy, so I can see why this has been a good marriage up to this point. So definitely, congratulations on that. Congratulations on this event. It's a huge crowd here. Yes. Y'all done a great job. Tons of content. It's great hearing from customers. So it's been awesome. So, and thanks for sitting down with me today. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Good. That went a bit deeper than I thought, but
I'm sorry.
Maybe that's good.
I was trying to be a little more, just not